Good morning. Thanks for inviting me, Rob and the Seegers team. Some very familiar faces. It's either people I've worked with, or people I've sold to, or people who are currently selling to me. I just want to warn you, you're not going to walk out of here with a lot more info or, well, answers on artificial intelligence. There's not a lot of people out there, especially as it relates to software quality and testing, seems to know what's happening. There are not many books. In fact, I could find only one book on the topic. There's a lot of AI books, but when it comes to software quality and testing, I only found one book. There might be more. I think it's a topic that generates a lot of interesting debate. And it's okay as a testing community to debate and to disagree, hopefully respectfully. And my talk, as you can see in the title, is it hype or hysteria? And I'll touch on that just now, the two kind of extremes. Is it just fluff and it'll go away, or are we all going to die? Those are the two extremes. Bit of marketing, guys. That's my website, so if you want to contact me or follow what I do, obviously on the social media channels, on LinkedIn I'm quite active, but I'm publishing what I do on that website. I'm quite excited about the podcast. I'm busy recording episodes at the moment with some people globally, but also some people locally. Some of them are like experts, or what we might call the fathers of our industry, or fathers of the testing world. And some of them are junior testers, but everyone has a story to tell. The first question I always ask them is, how did you get into testing? And for those of you who are test professionals, that is always an interesting story, because that's not what you thought you were going to do one day. The next question I ask them is, what do you wish you knew at the beginning of your career that you know now? And then I also ask them about what they think is the future of testing and what we need to do to prepare ourselves. So in August I published that 40-page, I really call it my 2 cents worth, what the heck do I think I know kind of book called The Business of Software Testing. I was surprised by the exposure and the amount of people who bought it and the feedback. That really encouraged me to write more. You know, when you do these talks or when you write books or when you write articles, for me the biggest thing is to get over yourself. Because we are very critical, and a lot of us, especially in this industry, are perfectionists. And there's a nice little phrase when it comes to publishing that says, published is better than perfect. People out there need to hear what you have to say, even if you think you don't have all that much to say. Debate. All right, last bit of marketing. Well, I can just display. So Rob mentioned the Test It conference. He actually spoke about Test It and the SASTQB as two, but it's actually one conference in September. It's one in Johannesburg and one in Cape Town. I don't think it's open for registration just yet, but have a look at the social media channels there. There's some very interesting speakers from across the world coming over. It's also their 10th anniversary, so they want to make it really special. And then the other one is the IT Web Artificial Intelligence Summit in August. I'm not speaking there, but I'm hosting it, so I'm kind of doing the emceeing. Little disclaimer, I always do this. My opinions are my own, and it doesn't reflect the company I'm currently working for or any of the companies I've worked for before. The second thing I want to say as a disclaimer, I'm definitely not an AI expert, far be it from it, but I'm hungry to learn more. And what I want to talk about today, I hope will spur in you a hunger to also learn more. All right, they say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I know a lot of you here, I'm most certainly in the right room. Okay, I want to start off with this question. What is your view of artificial intelligence? People have very different views. A lot of it's been formed by the media. Think of movies a few years back like AI, a lot of the videos you see on YouTube, some of the articles you read. It is quite scary. I think a lot of people, the emotion that is generated when they think of artificial intelligence is definitely more negative than positive. We think of robots taking over the world, robots taking our jobs. It's not, and that's the thing I want to say about this topic, it's not in the future, it is already happening. I think a lot of the fluff and the hype we might not see in the next few years or ever, I don't know, but this is a topic that's relevant now. If you use Facebook, if you use Google, you're using artificial intelligence. But we're already using artificial intelligence. Hype and hysteria, the next slide was showing kind of an arrow pointing in two ways. So is artificial intelligence, and as it applies to testing, hype? In other words, is it really just fluff that's going to disappear in a year or two from now? Or is it hysteria, which means it's going to totally take over everything we do, we'll most likely all be out of jobs in the next year or so, it'll most likely kill us? Obviously, it's not one of the two extremes in my opinion. I think it's closer to the center. In my view, it is leaning toward hysteria. So my view is that it's not hype. There is most certainly a heck of a lot of hype out there. Will it fundamentally change our lives? It absolutely will. It already has as consumers. It's in 3 or 4 years from now, people will be doing jobs that doesn't even exist right now. My son is 4. Imagine what he's going to do one day. I can't even imagine it. It's changing our lives right now, and then the question is, as from a software quality point of view, what do we need to do to get ready for this technology impacting lives already? We work for organizations, or we work for clients who are looking at AI, who are implementing it already. And how do we both use AI to test better, and how do we test AI systems? I think it's a fascinating conversation, and I think as software quality engineers, we have to get ready for this. A lot of organizations are not mature enough, so still do a lot of testing, still do work with masses of people here or offshore doing the testing for them manually. The whole shifting left and digitalization, etc., is a big topic, but if you are not in that movie already, it's almost already too late. And it's not scaremongering, and I'm happy if you disagree with me. Normally manual testers are the ones that disagree more than any other. What I hope you leave with here today is not fear, but to be inspired to start looking at this topic and to learn, and to look at some amazing websites, LinkedIn Learning and some others. The video I'm going to show you at the end also is from a learning provider. Fascinating website. But you have to invest in your own education as a human being, but as a technology professional and as a tester. It's an interesting debate to see how organizations who offer training for testers have adapted to this, and I think it's most likely not happened at all. There's still a lot of manual testing training out there and things like that. All right. So there's the different views between Musk and Zuckerberg, and just an example, you will find some fascinatingly different views by very smart people on this topic. Good to have an opinion, and it's good to have an opinion that can be changed and learn from people through debate. Okay, I find testers often very arrogant people, okay, and maybe people are just arrogant, but we are, especially if you're very smart at what you do, it's people who don't find learning necessarily easy, or the opinions of others easy. So it's good to have a strong opinion, it's good to know you know what you're talking about, and it's also good to know that there are things you don't know and that you can learn from others around you and self-learn and things like that. Quickly. Just as 100 years ago electricity transformed industry after industry, AI will now do the same. We cannot imagine a life without electricity. A lot of people in our country and across the world still live without it, but for most of us in this room, when we have a ESCOM blackout as we've recently had, your life comes to a standstill. If your internet is down, because your electricity is down, the local cell phone tower is most likely down as well. It's like going back into the Stone Age for a night or for a few hours. So you cannot imagine life without electricity. My child, the way I see electricity, he will see artificial intelligence like that. Cannot imagine a world where it didn't exist. All right? No sector or business will in any way be immune from the impact of AI. Every company you work for, you work with, will be impacted by it. So that $15.7 trillion in the next 12 years, listen to this, labor productivity improvements of $6.6 trillion. Now that's an interesting topic because hundreds of thousands of people will lose their jobs because of this technology. But imagine the jobs you can create because of it. So even from a testing point of view, that's a relevant topic, is how do we reskill people? Will a lot of people lose their jobs, or will we need a heck of a lot more people that's upskilled to do the job through AI? It brings me to an interesting topic, because we can share a lot of theory, but when you go back to work today or tomorrow, is where do you start on this journey? I deal with a lot of the big global vendors and a lot of the local vendors. When it comes to AI, in testing, great presentations, great white papers. Personally, and this is really just my opinion, I haven't seen one of the big global or local vendors who can really start taking your hand on this journey, because they're all figuring this thing out for themselves at the moment. As I say, if you look at the websites and the marketing, fascinating things. But where do we start? One of the biggest things about AI is data. How can that machine do self-learning and predictive analysis and all of those kind of things without the right data? And I think in most organizations that we represent here, that's most likely our biggest problem, our data. So how do we get the data if we don't have it? So do we use robotics, for instance, to generate data to use for testing AI? Data is one big problem. The other big problem is the organization you work in, the bank, the telco, etc. I don't think AI is something we can do in isolation from a testing point of view. Is there an appetite? Is it being rolled out across the organization? To what extent is it still very siloed? So there's a lot of things that will stop us from a QA point of view to embark on this journey because of the organization design and maturity and things like that. 4 sources that's really worth looking at. Most of you know the World Quality Report. The next one should come out in the next 3 or 4 months, but they say some interesting things about a year ago already about this topic. This is the only book I could find relevant to testing and artificial intelligence from Sujeti. That is a fascinating book that gives a lot of practical advice and examples of European organizations where they have started implementing AI successfully in testing. This book I really want to recommend you guys read, from Andrew Burgess. What I love about it, it's a book written for business people, for business execs and owners. So it takes you through the whole topic of AI, but with no technical propeller head fluff. It talks about how to practically, it talks about the business case, finding the area in your organization that's best suited to start with AI, etc. So it's a fascinating book, and I'll touch on it briefly just now. And this is an interesting study done by Accenture and the Gordon Institute of Business called Is South Africa Ready for AI? And I think it was published in the last few months, but they make some very interesting statements. Now, I'm going to run through these sources and then we're almost done. Intelligence-driven QA. A lot of single malt scotch and debates about what that means, and are we ready for it? Tools. I think a lot of the tools we are traditionally using to test is not suited for this world. It's most likely already not really suited for what we're doing. The big names, and I can't mention them. There are some amazing little tool companies and little startups, and hopefully you work in organizations that allows you to bring these kind of weird and wonderful tools into your environment. And this one is quite interesting. The more repetitive analysis and execution tasks and routine jobs in any industry, that is the biggest risk from an AI point of view. Now think of what a lot of us are doing from a testing point of view. Can you take that whole phrase and say, that's essentially my job? Because if it is, if the companies do it right, you will be out of a job in a year or 2. Connected ecosystems, a lot of us are busy dabbling or doing that already. Hopefully the silos are busy falling away. This one I love, test for experience. Are we actually testing the customer journeys? Or are we working in these silos? This is from the Andrew Burgess book, which is quite interesting. It really will not do it justice to tell you in 3 seconds what this is. The chapter is very good, but he talks about what he calls the 3 phases to go on this AI journey. And remember, it's a business book. It doesn't talk about testing necessarily or just tech. It's how do business people implement this. He talks about AI, or well, for this matter, more robotics. You can start off with initiatives where you capture information easier through the channels that come into your organization. But then what do you do with that data and the analyzing of that data? And then using early onset AI to determine what is happening, and that could be user sentiment and things like that. And then, why is it happening? Self-learning, proper analysis, etc. Go read this chapter in this book, because it is, for me, from a business point of view, a great guide on determining where to start in your business when it comes to this kind of a journey. And then that publication, local one by Accenture and Gibbs, legacy technologies and systems, business models, corporate structures, as well as sunk investments. For a lot of us, that's the world we live in. But it's also a lot of banks globally still sit with this. And there are guys that's gone very far. But imagine working for a startup as a QA person, but not 100 years of history and legacy and acquisitions and stuff. They then make some recommendations, creating a vibrant, so talking about AI in South Africa, creating a vibrant ecosystem, the way we educate our youngsters. Last point on here talks about policymakers and government. Is there really an appetite in government to put money into these initiatives? How can we start taking a lot of these engineering and software and manufacturing jobs that we've offshored bring it back and do those jobs here? Can technology help us? Very interesting paper to read. One last slide and then the video. I want to just talk about this again, about the book that I've started planning, Artificial Intelligence and Testing. Some of the topics that I think is relevant, but I'm going to put it out there soon for people's input and to find out, do you want to write about this, is what is the business case for AI and testing? In other words, how do you sell it to your organization? Remember my earlier point, is there organizational-wide appetite and budget for this? Or how can we maybe potentially, to a limited scale, show in testing this is something that can work, but how do you build that business case? I talk about change management and transformation. Remember, a lot of people are not pro this kind of tech because more than not they fear losing their jobs. How do we bring change management into the organization when it comes to technology like this? I talk about big data. I've touched on it earlier. Do we have the data? Can we generate it, etc.? There's some interesting articles on AI as a service or cloud AI. So again, do we have to build this whole thing in-house, or can we almost on a consumption-based kind of a model just activate it on the cloud, use it? You know, you can see I'm not really a real tester. But what I'm saying is, we so often, because we're kingdom builders, we want to build the thing in-house. Why? Maybe we can just bring it online, use it, and stop it, and pay for usage, something like that. Okay, so the video I want to show you, and let's hope it works. As I said, it's about 6 minutes long. But it talks about how the world is changing, and it talks about the fact that you have the power in your hands right now to educate yourself. And that's the message I want to leave you with. So, as I said earlier, I'm not bringing you like amazing insights and answers about AI. I just, firstly, if you're not already realizing it, want you to realize how dramatically it's going to change our world and our careers as testers, and to encourage you to start investigating, start training, become more technical, become a coder if you're not, become a quality engineer and not just a tester, and so forth.
If you're watching this, you're among the 3% of people that understand that the future of work is going to look very different from what it is now. So keep watching. Let's see where we're heading. It's also exciting, right? Siri will recognize your voice even if you're 5 meters away from your phone. That new chatbot feels totally real. Self-driving cars are no longer fiction. You can analyze your DNA. You tried flying that drone for the first time, and you're thinking of buying a smart speaker to make your life so much easier. A few years from now, and that's something like 3 years, not 30, artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, mass 3D printing, biotechnology, chatbots, virtual reality, deep learning, drones, augmented reality, smart objects will all be deeply enrooted in our everyday lives. Just like computers, phones, or electricity are for us today. Oh well, is this really gonna happen? And if it does, you'll adapt when the time comes, right? Life is good. You love your job. You've been working for this established company for a few years. You're comfortable in your position. You know what you're good at. People like you, and that last presentation you gave got you some amazing reactions. You're safe with your company. In the meantime, you see an article or two speculating on the future of jobs. McKinsey published a report stating that 45% of all current tasks could be automated with present technology. The World Economic Forum estimates that 33% of jobs in 2020 don't even exist yet. But what do they know, right? You've got time. Oh look, the supermarket just introduced self-cashier machine. You're at the airport checking in luggage. What the heck happened to all the real people at the check-in desk? Gone. Replaced by machines. But it's only the low-skilled jobs, right? Nope, think again. In 2012, there were 150,000 humans working on Wall Street. 3 years later, automation has cut that number down to 100,000. That's 1/3 gone. But it's only the mathematical and scientific jobs, right? Nope, think again. This Japanese insurance company, Fukuoka Mutual Life Insurance, is already replacing all its human insurance claim workers with an AI system that will handle customers more efficiently. See these articles? They're written by algorithms, and we can't tell the difference with human written content. And thinking of converting yourself to being an online poker player? Too late. There's an AI that can already beat humans at it. Most journalists, tax consultants, marketeers, technicians, knowledge workers, lawyers, even the person editing this video right now will to some extent have been impacted or automated by technology in a couple of years. And what have you been doing? Probably watching Netflix. And the problem is, the machines don't wait. And the machines, they don't watch Netflix. So what are the forces at play here? Basically, there's 10 million developers out there using increasingly simple and cheap technology to build new products and services. Some as young as 12 are already coding the future. Even that safe company you work for is increasingly under outside threat. And it's not just the Google, Amazon, Facebooks, and Apples of the world that I'm talking about. There are now tens of thousands of startups out there eating away at all sorts of jobs. Now, are they creating many jobs in the process? Let's look at some stats. Travel a bunch of years back to when Kodak rules the world of photography. They were worth $38 billion and employed 140,000 people. That's approximately $270,000 per employee.
Our people work with pride to make Kodak a creative and innovative company.
Fast forward to recent times, YouTube sold for $1.65 billion with a mere 65 employees. That's $25 million per employee. Instagram, which had 13 employees and was sold for $1 billion. That's $77 million per employee. WhatsApp sold for $19 billion with 55 employees. That's a staggering $345 million per employee. So how is this all possible? Technology has allowed the emergence of what we call exponential organizations. These are exponentially fast-growing companies that leverage technology and require less employees but more tech-savvy ones.
You will find that we are technology optimists. We believe that technology is a major driver of change in the world.
And as software continues to eat up the world, more companies are trying to replicate these exponential companies, hire less people but grow exponentially through technology. As this happens, job roles are slowly disappearing and being replaced by skill sets. Employers require you to know an ever-growing number of new and ever-changing fundamental skills in order to use the technologies they've implemented. Master the fundamentals and you can master the rest. A digital skills gap is growing for both mid-skill and high-skill level jobs. Before you know it, you've become irrelevant. But wait, what's this doomsday message? There's actually a way to leverage technology before it leverages you. And in fact, it's never been easier to do so. This might sound kind of corny, but it starts with the right state of mind. It starts with having a growth mindset, where you have the desire and the confidence that you can learn anything. Shift your thinking on how these technologies will rattle and mutate, but enrich your work life. Because yes, if you play your cards right, technology will make your work life and your life in general much, much better. The fact is that technology will actually remove boring, repetitive jobs from your way, but only if you understand the fundamentals. And you have no excuse not to do so. How can you stay relevant if you can't talk the lingo? How can you stay relevant if you can't execute? Can you talk tech? Can you talk APIs? Can you talk code? Can you talk data? While slow educational institutions are struggling to keep up, that's not an excuse. Train yourself, take your education in your own hands. Learn to code, learn about behavioral psychology, automation tools, playing with data, user experiences, be curious. And if you're an employer, train your people. Online and offline courses have never been more readily available or rich in content. It's time to build something. Your greatest credential in this new era is your output of stuff. Proof of your awesomeness. A website, a blog, a prototype, a simple data model. It's time to build cool stuff and showcase it. It's time to start learning. It's time to get shit done. It's time for your growth.